Hello and welcome back to King Creek. I'm Stetson, and today I'm building this patio back here behind me. I'm just doing the framing today. In my previous videos you've seen me do the concrete foundation, the gravel, and then even cutting up this lumber on a sawmill out here. This is all oak, so this thing should be nice and strong by the time I'm done with it. We've been storing all this wood under a blue tarp in our front yard next to the garden, so it's so nice finally using some of this up. I bought these bases so that they would fit a true 6x6, but a few of these were still pretty tight, and since this is all oak, we were pre-drilling every hole. I'll leave a link to these bases in the description in case anybody's interested. Each base came with 8 lag screws and a drill bit and the impact socket to drive them with. These oak beams were about 250 to 300 pounds. We decided to do it by hand because the tractor is just so old and slow in these tight spaces. I'm so glad I had help though. There's no way I could have done this all by myself. Because I had the luxury of free wood in the sawmill, these are all 12 feet long, and then we trimmed them off to length once we had them stood up. By the end of the day, we were wore out. As you can imagine, we had to take these beams up and down a few times and recut and trim and get them to fit just right. Huge shout out to Mallory's dad. He almost missed his flight trying to stay and help me get finished. We got all of the beams cut and set in place except for one that we cut wrong, so we just threw it on the ground and I told him I would figure it out the next day. I made this way harder on us than it probably should have been, but I was trying to hide all my fasteners, so that's why the joints are kind of complicated in the corners. But we're so glad we did it that way. It's cool seeing the 3 pieces of wood come together. Now that everything was starting to turn green, I needed to fine-tune my dirt work a little bit and get some grass growing so that all this dirt doesn't wash away. I threw out a mix of Bermuda and ryegrass with some high nitrogen fertilizer. Since this wasn't the garden, we weren't worried about it being organic. I hauled all the extra clay over to our pond to kind of beef up the levee. The water's been overflowing here instead of the pipe like it's supposed to. Good morning. It's been a couple of weeks since I built this structure so far, so I'm gonna start putting the rafters on the roof today. I still got to put like some supports to kind of hold the rafters, and I need to cut this column over here down. We're gonna leave it as tall as it can be, and then on these ends there's gonna be kind of like trusses, if you will. I've put in maybe 10 of these screws, and the bit's not that stripped, but they bite so hard it's stripping the screw. I can't get it out. Got to cut about 3 inches off the top and then notch it, and that's 12 feet in the air, so I didn't have a good way to do it off this 8-foot ladder. You can see just how much these screws bite into the wood. And this is that head that was stripping out on me. You see, I had to kind of cut the pitch of the roof into this. That's where the rafters are going to be sitting. Well, I put new screws in it that weren't stripped out, and it kind of pulled it really tight. It's a little out of level, or out of plumb. You can kind of see that. I think I'll be able to straighten it out. And I did the same thing going this direction. Pulled it to the right a little. But it's solid. My next step before I can put a rafter on is to get one of these bridge beams on. I never pulled them off the sawmill after I cut them. And I need to run them through the table saw and put that 5/12 pitch on either side here. Well, my table saw definitely wasn't liking that, but I was cutting it wrong anyways. My saw only goes to 45 degrees, so this is 22.5, and I needed to do, well, I guess 22.5 degrees from this side. Well, I already went ahead and put the screws in this on both ends, so all I have to do is screw it down once I get it up there, if I can get it up there. I finally got the ridge beam up. My arms are shaking. Well, it's 2 full days, well, a day and a half of working. We went to church this morning, but I got 5 rafters put up, and it's going pretty fast now. Getting that ridge beam, man, that was tough. Now I'm just cutting the same cut over and over again. I spent a lot of time on these 2 pieces since they're going to be the first thing you see when you pull up, and then I had to really trim them down with this planer to get them to be the same thickness. One thing I wished I would have done different is where they come together at the top. I wish I would have made that a little bit lower so there's a little more meat underneath the ridge beam. Well, I didn't get any rafters up today, but I started trying to get my next ridge beam up, but I had to build these two little, I guess you'd call them supports. I'm not sure, but there's a bunch of rain and storms over here that's brewing up behind me, so not really loving standing on aluminum ladders with lightning in the background. So I'm gonna stop for today, or if it goes by pretty quick, I'll get back after it, but let me show you what I got done. So on this end, I have this kind of a support post that comes straight off of a column, and then I had to kind of notch it so that I could get my rafter in. And the reason I had to do that is when I laid out my foundations, I made them 12 foot on center, and my boards are 12 feet long. I should have made them 12 foot outside to outside. So basically I'm 3 inches short everywhere. So if you can see under this support post, I kind of notched it 3 inches in, so that helped me on this side. My beam is 12 foot 1. Oh, I'm tripping over a board down here. And it lands right in the center of this column. And then going to my kind of A-frame looking thing here, it would be 12 foot 3 to the outside. So my plan for now is to do my next ridge beam from there to, you know, about 12 foot 1, I think is what it is too. And then I'll have 2 inches over here. I was trying to say that we're gonna cover this gap up with a piece of trim. I'll show you how it looks from this end. Now that I've done this a couple times by myself, this one wasn't too bad. The ratchet strap's probably not the best way to hold something over your head, but it got the job done. Again, I spent a lot of time trying to get these two pieces perfect, since it's going to be the first thing you see and it's going to establish the center of the roof. Well, I got exactly half of the rafters up today, and then I ran out of 2x6s, so I got to fire the old sawmill back up and cut like 12, or maybe I'll cut some extras, but I'll get those done and do the roof maybe in the next video. I think from now on we're going to call this the Pavilion instead of the patio. It's a little bigger. We kind of went back and forth on it when we were first naming this thing. We were calling it the patio or the Pavilion, and I think Pavilion is what fits it better. So make sure to stick around and like and subscribe if you want to see more of these Pavilion videos.